Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this morning's look through of the IFA webinar in conjunction with Fundsource. My name is Bruce Jenner. Very good morning to you all. Thank you for taking time out of your Monday morning to have a look at this presentation. My position is to help and train people on the FE analytics system, which is used globally by many thousands of advisors to help with their client research, engagement, compliance and reporting. And this morning we're going to look at three different scenarios that will assist you in your time-saving initiatives with your clients, as well as the way ultimately that you work with your client moving forward in terms of client engagement. Some recent industry research indicated that the three key areas that are affecting advisors at the moment within the Australasian market is client engagement and the way and the means with which you engage with your client, the complexities of compliance in and around that engagement, and the reporting thereof to the client at an annual review or an ongoing review relationship with that particular client. So we're going to have a look at three focuses and the ways that you can approach all three of these key areas in a quick, timely and professional way with the FE analytics system. So, focus one, identifying, comparing benchmark performance of Australasian investment funds to meet your clients' outcomes and expectations. So the first slide we'll look at is the home screen of the system. I will be referring to the system, but not selling the system per se. This is designed to help you with your research. It is, of course, available as a system to subscribe to, which we'll talk about at the end. But the importance of this morning is to show you how easy the system is to use with regards to your ongoing research and portfolio building. So this is the home screen of the system. Worth mentioning at this juncture of this morning's presentation that the logo in the top left-hand corner can in fact be your own company logo, which comes into its own later on when you're actually clicking and running reports from the system. So I've picked a fund, which is the Key Street Conservative Fund, and by clicking on this little arrow I've added in the sector and the two benchmarks the fund is compared against. Very easily we can then compare the performance of those four items that we have on the particular home screen by running a performance table, which I'll flick through into the live version in a couple of seconds and show you how easy it is to do. We now have those four units in a performance table, which is very easy to read with the human eye. This comes into its own when you have many hundreds of funds added on one particular page. And by clicking on any of the up or down arrows, you can actually rank all of those particular funds in the order that you would like to see them appear. We can also run a ratio table with the same information from alpha through to volatility, and by clicking on either the up or down button, it will rank all of those particular units into the correct position that they should be in. Now, if I share my screen, we're actually now into the live system, so it all looks very similar. I've found the Key Street fund that I wanted to look at. I click on Add. I add in the sector. I add in the benchmark. And if I go across to the right-hand side, I can quickly run a performance line chart. All of the charts and tables that you'll see this morning can be dragged out into Word or into PowerPoint. And the colours of the lines can also be changed as well, should you be an organisation that's particularly focused on brand colours, or you're particularly interested in showing off a fund in a bright colour against some dull colours. So there's that particular chart. We've all seen one of those before, and that can in fact give us the percentage over the last year of those four units that we have ticked on our active list. But if we go to the performance table, which we looked at previously, we can then rank those 4 items by 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, and 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10-year performance. And as I mentioned, by clicking on any of the down arrows, you can rank any of those 4 ticked items on our active list into the correct order that they should be. We can also run a ratio table, as I previously mentioned, which will rank all of those units and the whole sector into the correct order of alpha through to volatility. So if we click on the down arrow, it will rank all of those funds in the position of alpha that they've appeared over the last 3 years. And I'm just going to add in this one and this one, and then go back to the presentation. So we've now identified, compared benchmark performance for one particular fund against its sector, against its 2 different benchmarks. And we've also looked at comparing the whole sector that that fund appears in, and then ranking all of those funds that we're looking at either by performance or by ratio. Focus 2. Advisors' best practice in providing illustrative content that is clear for your statements of advice for investment planning. Not sure why there's a smiley face there. I just thought I'd put that in for fun. When you sit down with your customer, most people want to know how their money has grown from point A to B. We can, with the performance line chart that I previously showed you, change it from a percentage growth to a dollar amount. So if we put $10,000 into the system 5 years ago, it will tell us what that $10,000 is worth now. We can also compare 3 funds in terms of their risk and return metric. This is a very popular feature from the system, from the many thousands of users of analytics around the world, because it allows to instantly show to their client how well a particular fund or portfolio is performing over time, how risky it is, and what sort of return the client is getting from working with that advisor. I'll move on to this slide very shortly, but this demonstrates one of the most classic features of the system, whereby you can have 2 portfolios in the system and compare the risk and return metrics of that portfolio, and therefore justifying your fees to a new or existing client. So if I flip back into the live system, if I untick the sector and untick the benchmarks and do a performance line chart over the last 3 years, left-hand side of the screen, we've added things we want to look at. Right-hand side of the screen, we choose how we want to have a look at them, and then we click Go. Now let's change that to an index lump sum of $10,000, and then we click on Go. It will rank those 3 particular items that we've chosen and show you how much money you would have made if you'd had $10,000 in either of those funds over the last 5 years. Similarly, the scatter chart that I previously showed will show us the type of risk and return to be expected from those particular units that we've chosen. Now, this particular slide, as I previously mentioned, comes into its own when comparing two portfolios against each other. Which will demonstrate that a particular client might be under the impression that their performance is much better than yours as an advisor, but when you actually show them the risk and return model, you are in fact adding considerable value as per this chart, and it's often then easy to retain an existing client and, more importantly, onboard a new customer. This particular feature is widely regarded, and the feedback that we get from many of the 1,000 users of this product around the world is one of the key things that helps justify their fees moving forward and building a deeper and more professional relationship with their customers moving forward. There are also additional outputs within the system that you can include as part of a statement of advice. Various different charts and tables that can be incorporated into a client annual review to make the reporting of that particular client's portfolio much easier on the eye. Moving on to scenario 3. How to conduct due diligence and research to back your client recommendations, provide definitive evidence for the benefits of your advice, and meet code of conduct compliance requirements. This particular feature of this research system is an extraordinary time saver, and this particular screen will basically highlight what we call the fund filter tool, which allows you to filter the whole New Zealand managed investments universe by a number of different criteria. Once we've searched for those particular criteria, in this case we're looking for performance, alpha and volatility, it will give us those particular funds. It will give us a date and also an explanation of the way we search for those particular funds, and then we can confidently include those funds into a portfolio. And if we were to ever be asked by the regulator as to why we recommended a particular fund or series of funds to a customer, the information is clearly ranked here as to why we chose that information from a third-party data supplier. On the subject of third-party data suppliers, FE in New Zealand is partnered with Fundsource, who I'm sure many of you are very well aware of. Fundsource are the agent in New Zealand for selling the analytics system and helping train you and get the most out of the system. FE as a company has been going for 20 years. It's a British-based company and supplies managed fund data to the likes of Lomsec, Bloomberg, and many global financial brands that you would be aware of. So what you're actually accessing here is a global pot of data to assist you in a number of different time-saving methods. So we've searched our funds. I'm going to flip back into the system here and just show you quite how easy that is to do. This is one of the most clever parts of the system. Just untick those, click on the fund filter. All New Zealand units. Let's change it to manage investments. It will calculate how many funds there are. So there's 3,000 in the other universe. Nearly made a mistake there. There's 554 funds in the New Zealand managed investment universe. Let's say, for example, we wanted to choose how many of those funds have produced over 6% alpha. It will calculate those down. So there's 24. And let's say, for example, we wanted to see how many of those funds have produced less than 3% volatility. There's 2 funds. And we can then click on Show Results, and it will show those 2 particular funds that we've researched in a matter of seconds. And then we can confidently include those in a statement of advice or portfolio or investment research project moving forward. One of the key factors in financial advice that's happened in many different territories globally over the last few years is the move from commission-based remuneration to a different style of fee-for-service offering. And that's been quite a cultural shift. And many clients have experienced that cultural shift in the fact that they now have to pay for the professional advice services of advisors and managers in various different parts of the world. This particular feature of this research system allows you to justify the value of your advice, and this particular screen is the Model Portfolio Builder screen, and these little tabs here indicate the type of process that you would go through as an advisor with your customer over a period of time. And each time the customer comes in, you would add in various different weightings and different funds into a portfolio. Worth noting that you can include ETFs and direct shares into this portfolio as well as pure managed funds. And each time you make a switch in the portfolio, you build up a number of these tabs across the right-hand side. And over time, this allows you to clearly show the value of your advice. Because what we have here is the green portfolio, which was the first one in 2008, the red portfolio in 2010, and the last changes we made to that portfolio in 2013, which clearly show that as a result of me listening to my advisor, I've gathered a lot more return from this particular portfolio over time. Now, I'm sure there's a few of you chuckling in the background that I can't hear, and you can actually switch on and off this feature depending on your performance, and that's often valuable in terms of being used as a professional development tool for your own circumstances, because you can actually put in a fund or a selection of different funds and back test those against various different situations moving forward. And I'll just show you very quickly how easy that is to do. Same screen portfolio that you've just seen. Each time we've changed the weightings over the 3-year period or 6-year period. This is designed to show a pre and post GFC model. And then when we click on the performance line chart over the last, say, 6 years, we'll have our normal stage of the Tour de France, probably out the wares, looking how sharp this particular line is. And literally we turn on the options, which will clearly demonstrate the value of your advice. The system will also allow us to quartile various research processes into what I would call a colourful rainbow chart. which makes it much easier for you to be researching a vast number of funds all at once. And we can also rank those in an absolute fashion, so you know the exact performance of all of these funds over time. One of the last features I will show you this morning is the very clever option of being able to get FE Analytics to talk with Microsoft Excel. I'm sure many of you watching this morning use Excel. It's an extraordinary tool. And the value of this is being able to dynamically have all of the data that you're regularly looking at in Analytics saved into your Excel worksheets, and when you go into the worksheet in 2 or 3 days' time and click on Refresh Data, all of that information will repopulate as quickly as you click Refresh. So I will just share my screen and show you how we do that. Let's call this IFA Webinar. And in a couple of seconds that will save, and it will give us a dynamic link at the bottom of the page. And then we scroll to the bottom, copy the link, click on Data from Web, paste in that link, hit Enter, and all of that fund data will populate into this little window. And when we click Import, it will all populate into the window in a couple of seconds. So there we have the rank: 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. Now, it's worth mentioning at this point that the system allows you to do a considerable amount more than some of the features I've showed you this morning. If anybody of you are watching have any questions, please feel free to send those through with the chat feature as part of the webinar, and I'll come to those in a minute. But this particular feature is worth noting that you can actually have not only performance data, but also ratio data and static fact sheet information from the system being populated into this worksheet. So when you go in the next few days and you click Refresh Data, all of those numbers will populate back into those particular columns, which will just show you how the system goes off and talks to Analytics, just like that. So just finishing off, and I'm conscious of not giving too much of a dump of features and benefits of the system. What I've tried to show you this morning is some of the key ways that you can answer some of those questions that have been highlighted in recent research that are affecting advisors in the Australasian market. And all of those can be ticked off very, very easily by using this system, which I also may add is extremely accessible in terms of cost. It's a subscription service, and normally by onboarding one or maybe two customers during a year, which is not a large request, the system can pay for itself in spades. So just finishing off, it's used by 7,500 planners in the UK and several hundred in Australia itself, and we're beginning to work with a number of users in New Zealand. The system you're looking at has won the best planning tool at the highly respected Aberdeen UK Platform Awards 4 years in a row. It's cloud-based, which means that you can use it at home or in the office or wherever you have internet connection. The system contains New Zealand and Australian data, and should you wish to have access to more international data, those options are available as well. It's very easy to use, it's low cost, and it does justify the value of your advice. So hopefully that's given you an overview to FE Analytics this morning. I'm over from Australia this week in New Zealand, and if you're in Wellington, we're available to visit you either around 10:15 or 1 p.m. tomorrow, or we will be in Christchurch on Wednesday at the Rendezvous Hotel from 1 p.m. I can either be contacted via bruce.jenner, Jenner, @financialexpress.net, or my colleague Glenn Van Echten from Fundsource can be contacted via contacting Fundsource at +64 4 495 5058. I'm just scanning to see if there are any questions. No questions as yet. So on that basis, I'll continue padding for a couple more seconds. Thank you very much for your time this morning. We welcome some feedback and any questions from you, either via the contact details I've just left, or we can be ultimately reached via contacting the IFA. Thank you very much for your time this morning.